Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MSP. Ukraine War News Update, second part thereof, the 11th of June 2024. Before we get into the military aid and equipment part of the video, I just want to do a corrective. There was an assassination of a local official in Zaporizhia. I said I didn't know whether it was Zaporizhia city or the occupied area. It looks like it was in Zaporizhia, downtown Zaporizhia city. So this looks like in the free part of Ukraine, someone has been assassinated, local official. I'm not sure what the situation was, whether this is a pro-Russian bit of sabotage or whether it was just some issue that was nothing to do with the war. Anyway, yeah. That has happened. Okay, 1.5 billion euros of income from Russian assets will be confiscated in July, and the EU will provide Ukraine with 1.9 billion euros this month. That's amazing. That's Ursula von der Leyen, who is, I believe, she in Germany at the moment with Olaf Scholz, and the Ukraine Recovery Conference is taking place there, I think, and Zelensky's there as well. I think he's just spoken. Has he not spoken at a conference with Scholz? Anyway. This is really good news because, I mean, straight away I'd be going to Raytheon and putting the money down on the counter and saying, yeah, I'll have a couple of Patriots, please. Thank you very much. And like now, so good news. That is money that's coming from Russian assets, confiscated Russian assets. The income from that really good news, because that is not money that's coming out of other countries' coffers that could be put to whatever else. Okay, this is as much as you're ever going to get, like free money. That's what it is, as far as Ukraine is concerned and the EU is concerned. Okay, we have had Mike McCall, a Texas Republican who is a really strong supporter of Ukraine here, and he's on the Intelligence Committee. Oh no, there's McCall and McFord, isn't there? I get confused. Anyway, he is a very strong supporter of Ukraine. The policy restriction defies congressional intent and must be revised immediately to best allow Ukraine to defend its territory and win the war. Okay, yeah, House Foreign Affairs Committee chairman, that's it. So he's appealing to Biden, lobbying Biden to allow Ukraine to use American weapons to strike other parts of Russia aside from just inside Russian territory near the Kharkiv region. Zelensky told McCall and other lawmakers at the Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore that he can't effectively defend the city with the US prohibition on using some weapons in place, McCall said in a letter sent on Thursday to Biden. Zelensky raised ongoing challenges on the battlefield, including those caused by Biden, your restrictive policy on Ukraine's use of US-provided weapons, particularly mid- and long-range Army tactical missile system variants, ATACMS, that have been explicitly authorized by Congress for transfer. The missiles could be used to strike Russian targets supporting the offensive, as well as airfields where Russian aircraft are, per the letter from McCall, chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Quote, this policy restriction defies congressional intent and must be revised immediately to best allow Ukraine to defend its territory and win the war. I also ask that you provide Ukrainians with the requested intelligence to allow for real-time targeting. Now, of all the things possibly been said in the last, 6 months, a year, that one sentence is the most surprising. I also ask you to provide Ukrainians with the requested intelligence to allow for real-time targeting. I was under the assumption that's precisely what they had. Now, there has been some talk about the US wanting to keep control over the targeting so that Ukraine asks for, get targets, and then they go to the US and say, can we shoot at this coordinate? And the US say yes or no. But I'd assumed they'd had some kind of real-time intelligence to be able to do such targeting. It's insane that they're doing so well without that. Imagine what they could do with that. Goodness me. If anyone has any thoughts on that, I'd be really interested. Germany will transfer its third Patriot air defense system, as well as Iris-T and Gepard's anti-aircraft systems, missiles and ammunition to Ukraine in the coming weeks and months, said Olaf Scholz at the Ukraine Recovery Conference. This is all good news. We have had, and I spoke to German Aid to Ukraine yesterday. Go and check out the live stream I did yesterday. But you have these Patriot systems that are, One system appears to be part of the IAAD. That's the initiative that Germany put together as a coalition of countries wanting to support Ukraine with air defences. Now, they were hoping to get a bunch of Patriot batteries together, but in the end, Germany pledged another Patriot system and couldn't get any other nation to do so. Romania, maybe. Spain have provided missiles. Loads of people have provided bits and pieces and money to buy a Patriot system. So I was unsure whether that money is going to be put towards compensating Germany for their pledge of a Patriot. So this is the third Patriot Germany are to give. Now, there's also the idea that they're going to give a fourth one. I don't think it's so formal as this, but there has been rumours over the last few weeks that they might well give a fourth Patriot. Now, that could be coming from the money they've raised from the IAAD. It could be that Germany provides a Patriot and then orders another one from Raytheon. I'm not sure. Or RTX. Talking of Patriots, so we've had the announcement from Scholz about the Patriot IRIS-T artillery, ammunition and missiles and whatnot. So other people then saying, well, it's about time other countries step up and donate or lease one or two of their Patriot batteries to Ukraine. I've talked about the leasing option before. I think that would be pretty decent, which is, yeah, you can have this Patriot. We'd like it back. We don't really use it at the moment in, say, Spain, but we'll loan it to you so we get some income for that. And if it gets blown up, then you can buy us another one type thing. But alas, not happened. Anyway, the US, Sweden, Spain, Romania, Greece, Netherlands and Israel have Patriots. Now, Null Report says the US should stop slacking. It has plenty of PAC-2 batteries, so they're not the most modern ones, or they have a longer range, but they don't really take out ballistic missiles, but they're really good for all this other stuff. And with a longer range, they've got a bunch of PAC-2 sitting around, as Null Report says, so catching dust at the moment. Israel is retiring 4 PAC-2 batteries. By them, with the funds generated from Western partners or confiscated profits from frozen Russian assets. Brilliant. There's been a lot of talk about these 4 batteries that Israel is retiring. My goodness, there you go. 4 Patriot batteries would be fantastic. Yeah. According to information published by the UDI, they, together with Rheinmetall, have opened the first joint armoured vehicle repair and production workshop in Ukraine. The main purpose of the new site is to repair and manufacture German-made military equipment. This will speed up the restoration of combat vehicles and their return to the front line, subsequently allow Ukraine to produce new equipment for the AFU. Ukrainian specialists work at the joint production site while representatives of Rheinmetall provide technical supervision. So this is amazing. There's a production facility that has already opened, a Rheinmetall together with the Ukrainians to, as mentioned, repair and restore these German-made vehicles and equipment. It's important to note that, according to Rheinmetall's own information, maintenance and refurbishment work has been taking place via the joint venture since February, i.e. for at least 4 months. So I hope that Rheinmetall will provide further information on this tomorrow, which I'll then pass on, says German Aid to Ukraine, he's an absolutely great source. Again, check out the live I did with him yesterday. So he's added, Rheinmetall confirmed today that this was just the official opening of the facility. Marder 1A3 IFVs are already being maintained and overhauled on the site. In the future, the same is planned at other locations in Ukraine for Leopard 1A5 main battle tanks, so the old Leopard, and Leopard 2 main battle tanks. At least the Stridsvagn 122, that's the Swedish version, and the Leopard 2A6, which is the most modern version that Ukraine has, the Leopard 2A6. There is a Leopard 2A7 sort of about, but yeah, that's kind of not something Ukraine has, and other German-made vehicles. So that's really good news. It shortens the time that vehicles are away from the front line. Instead of having to go all the way back to Germany or Poland or wherever else, they can go to somewhere in Ukraine and hopefully safely get fixed up and brought back. And that then also gives jobs to Ukrainians as well. Okay, second half of my quick notes says this source, Demochavensis, about what the aviation head, Serhiy Holoptsov, said yesterday concerning F-16s. Now, I already shared with you a bunch of it of what was said yesterday. Here's just some more. Some of it might be repeated, but I think it's all great considering you don't always listen to everything, every video I do. So if you missed yesterday's, F-16 munitions, all the F-16s will have improved sight. In Ukrainian, usually that means improved radar. No further details given. This was thought to be the case, and this earlier on, months back, there was talk about the delay was part of the delay was in these aircraft, the F-16s being provided, getting better radar. Well, this is looking like that is confirmed. They'll also have pods for ground attack targeting. It won't give away any technical details on air-to-air munitions or the radar modifications, but mentions AIM 120 is used on these airplanes, and its combat range, let's say, according to some data, is up to 180 kilometers plus, 180 plus kilometers. That would be really useful, and it would be extending the present range of their air-to-air missile capabilities. On the effect that F-16s may have in Ukraine, in last year's interview, he said that 3 to 4 squadron minimum is to make a difference on a specific front segment. Of course, I doubt they're going to get that to begin with, that's for sure. During the last year, Patriots helped make a difference on a specific front segment and compensate for the absence of F-16s. So you put, instead of just being all about F-16s, having 3 to 4 squadrons, you can maybe have fewer F-16s with Patriot air defense supporting their role. After 13 Russian aircraft were downed within 2 weeks, the Russians stopped using guided bombs in the Chernihiv and Kherson front segments and started hunting for Patriots. Now, together with Patriots, we are expecting a similar effect, either a change of Russian tactics or a complete cessation of aviation use on certain front segments. That would be super, super cool. As to the numbers of F-16 pilots training, it's at a bottleneck. Western fighter jets are very different in terms of weapon use compared to Soviet jets, and thus training takes time. This year, we will see the effect of the F-16s on the battlefield, and then we will know what to change or not to change. He continues talking about 3 phases here to introduce the F-16s in Ukraine. Crawl, walk, run. At this point, we haven't learnt how to crawl. When the aircraft arrive in Ukraine, we will understand that we can crawl, trying the aircraft out deep inside Ukraine in relatively safe airspace. So that might be in roles such as shooting down cruise missiles as they fly towards places like Lviv. Then we'll learn to walk and then to run, achieving air superiority. English for training is very important. Tried training technical staff possibly with translators, but ended up sending them to English classes anyway in the end. Technical staff spend about 2 to 4 months just on English training, if your man here understands the General Holotsov correctly. On how many F-16s will arrive in Ukraine, not all F-16s will go straight to Ukraine. Some will remain abroad as dedicated trainers for Ukrainian pilots. Some will be kept aboard as reserve to replace F-16s in Ukraine if they are damaged or require servicing that prevents them from flying for significant time. The numbers of F-16s in Ukraine will be a function of the number of pilots, engineers, technical staff and airfields available. On when and how many F-16s will arrive in Ukraine, again, Holotsov wouldn't comment on exact dates other than this year. F-16s are planned to be in Ukraine. Let the Russians feel with their skin when F-16s are in. Ouch. At least a flight of jets will arrive at the minimum, but can be more. I don't know what a flight of jets really means. F-16 infrastructure and airfield protection. They can protect against aerodynamic targets as long as we have air defense munitions. So not the air defense systems, but the munitions. Interesting. Russia use up to 20 cruise missiles per airfield in a single attack. So they've got Starokonstantinov, for example, I presume has a Patriot system, certainly Nazam or Samti. But it will have I think personally, after Kyiv, Starokonstantinov as the air base that keeps the Su-24Ms, fighter cruise missiles and other important aircraft, is the most targeted airfield and therefore almost certainly has the next best air defences. 20 cruise missiles per airfield in a single attack. Wow. They need minimum 2 Patriot batteries, 2 Nazans plus Gepards. He didn't specify per what area. The Ukrainian Air Force are most worried that Russia won't be sparing Kinzhal and or Iskander ballistic missiles to target F-16s. Exactly what I said previously. Just as soon as those aircraft are on the air bases, they will have stored up Kinzhals and Iskanders that can't really be shot down apart from by Patriot Pack 3, maybe SAMP-T. They'll be absolutely hammering those F-16 bases with their very best missiles. And finally, on the Jazz 39 Gripen, F-16 was offered first. Ukraine is preparing infrastructure for it, for the Gripen, but Ukraine did request, what was that for F-16s? But Ukraine did request Jazz 39 in the past. It's not the first priority now. That is obviously F-16, but Ukraine is very interested in getting hold of the Gripen. Excellent addendum, specific quote on targeting system, radar and air-to-air munitions. There seemed to be interest in this. Holopsev was clearly deliberately ambiguous and unwilling to dive into specifics, though he did provide some. So that's worth saying. Quote, I can specifically say that the aircraft, plural, will be provided have undergone certain modernization. They have an improved aiming system for detection of aerial targets. A special pod that allows searching and targeting ground targets with bombs will be provided together with the aircraft. And then the interviewer said, talking about air-to-air weapons, effectively pushing Russian aviation away from the front line to prevent them using guided bombs en masse, i.e. working against Su-34, 35, will depend on the radar and air-to-air missiles that the F-16 will have, right? And the answer is, I wouldn't want to disclose the technical details about the target detection range. Talks about how impressed the Ukrainian pilots being trained are with the ability to detect targets ranging from drones to an airplane, but that range was undisclosed. But he continues, Holopsev continues, but there on these airplanes, AIM 120 with combat range based on, let's say, certain data of up to 180 plus kilometers is employed. And then he continues his discussion with the need to use these F-16 capabilities to push Russian bombers and fighters away from the front line. So it's a little bit unsure whether they will definitely have the AIM 120 with that range, but it's kind of, you can kind of make out that they will. So interesting data coming there. I mean, there's more to be added, but I think F-16s will be capable, and it's about, as mentioned, getting those pilots to do simpler tasks back in safe airspace, and then give them great, as they get more and more able to use these airframes and they learn how to keep them safe, they will be used in more and more, I presume, adventurous roles. Now, this has done a lot of seeing this quite a lot today. The Azov regiment that previously had not been, since 2017, the Americans had not given permission to give their weapons to the Azov battalion because of their rather checkered past, or certainly what their genesis was. But they're a very different unit now. They are well integrated into the Ukrainian armed forces, and they don't have that connection to the far right anymore. So the USA has now cancelled a ban on transfer weapons directly to them. So that's really good news for the Ukrainians. I hadn't reported this before, but it had been a complaint that had been going on for some time that the Azov weren't unable to use US provided weapons. Now going on to the Russians here. Don't worry guys, cavalry's coming, says Andrew Perpetua. Now, I think Andrew's reacting partly here in joking about this, reacting to the amount of footage that he sees. And I have seen an awful lot of footage of Russians on motorbikes. They're using motorbikes an awful lot. I have also not really seen any successful use of the motorbikes particularly. They seem to be very vulnerable. They get taken out by drones dropping IEDs and indeed FPV drones that can go faster than the motorbikes. And I've just seen a lot of carnage, a lot of motorbike carnage. Now, maybe they are being used successfully, but for me, they are, yes, they have the advantage of being kind of off-road capable, fairly fast, but they offer no protection at all. And you can kind of see them coming. I was watching some other footage of a drone group that have finally found 4 soldiers on foot that have been going in undergrowth and whatnot, and they've been causing trouble. I don't know what these 4 soldiers were doing, but they'd somehow caused trouble over several days and a lot of destruction. And they'd finally hunted these guys down. Now, you would never have that kind of hidden the camouflage that can be afforded to people going by foot. Motorbikes, they give a heat signature and you can see them from some way off. So yeah, they will have their uses, but I also think that you're pretty vulnerable on them. And man, I've seen a lot of destroyed motorbikes. Russia released a group of women from a prison in late May to join the fighting in Ukraine, potentially signaling a new phase in the Kremlin's use of criminals in its war effort. When we look at data points like this, it's about, okay, what does this tell us? What does it show us? I've said to you before, you can look at this both ways. You can say, what would I predict the situation would be if Russia were in super trouble and they absolutely were desperate for troops? What would I predict? Or you look at it in reverse, which is, this is what we got. What does this say about where Russia are at? Like if you'd say, right, Russia was so desperate that they were using convicts, and then you look at the data that we've seen on the attrition of Russian convicts, male convicts, right? And you're saying, okay, so that's been and gone. They're taking people from around the world. They are refusing to do a full-scale mobilization. What do you think the next step would be for the Russians if they were desperate? And I would say if they were desperate, I'd imagine they would take female prisoners, because that's the next kind of free people pool that they can dip into. Lo and behold, that's what they've done, at least in one occasion. Now, there are analysts saying, and the New York Times is like, don't know if this is a one-off, but it could be testing the ground, dipping your toe into the waters there to see whether this works. Military recruiters collected several women from prison outside St. Petersburg. About 30,000 women are serving time in Russia at the start of the invasion. So that is potentially a pool of potential recruits, should we say. And as I was just saying, Russia is intensifying its efforts to recruit Africans, offering money and citizenship to replenish forces in Ukraine amid domestic mobilization challenges, reports the UK Defence Ministry. Again, what does this tell us? And the only sound conclusion you can that is justified, I think, here is that Russia are in desperate straits. They're refusing to mobilize on a mass scale nationally, and so they are doing everything they can to get hold of people. And that means that they have had massive attrition and things aren't going particularly well for them. And that's kind of where I'm at. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, take care. Speak soon. Toodle pips.